So today we are very honoured to have as our guest Ringu Tulku Rinpoche, who is a master in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and who has arrived in Totnes for a meeting at Schumacher College and to give a talk at the Golden Buddha Centre. Welcome, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much.
Rinpoche, you were born in Tibet and recognised at quite a young age as a reincarnate Lama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the idea of reincarnation may be alien to some of our listeners, and you might like to say a little bit about that later, but my question mainly is, did you always feel that the Buddhist path was the right path for you, or did you at some point make a conscious decision to really practice?
Actually, I'm not necessarily always saying that Buddhist path is the right path. I'm just trying to look for anything that is that's truth, that would probably bring a good result, more wisdom and more correct kind of attitude and understanding. And whatever comes, I'm ready to accept it and ready to use it, whether it comes from Buddhism or not. And I feel that as a Buddhist, that doesn't become a problem. That's why I have no problem calling myself a Buddhist.
Yes. Right. Okay. And some of our listeners may be interested to hear that you were meeting at Schumacher College, and of course, as you may know, many people in Totnes are aware of the global warming and environmental issues. So, how did the meeting go, and what did you talk about?
We discussed about lots of things. I think they were the same question. How do we find a way to bring, how do we understand the ways to bring better livelihood, better living, better life for the people and for the world, and what are the causes of these problems. So I think we had a very nice discussion, and I think everybody agrees that we as the human beings, being the most dominating species on the earth, and having kind of lots of power and the resources. So we need to be more responsible. So if it is a problem that's created by us, we need to, I think, slowly find a way also out of this.
Okay. And this evening you'll be talking at the Golden Buddha Centre on the Bodhisattva path. Is it possible for you to say briefly what Bodhisattva is, and can anyone walk it?
Bodhisattva is a concept that anybody, I think it doesn't matter whether you confess to be a Buddhist or not, but anybody who says that I would like to find a way to reduce or free myself from the sufferings and pain and problems, and bring the lasting peace and happiness, but not just for myself. I would like to work towards that for all the sentient beings. And in that direction, I would like to put my energy and work on it from now onwards, however long it takes or however difficult it may be. If anybody, really have that way of seeing and way of looking like that, then he or she is called a bodhisattva from Buddhist point of view. So therefore it is seen as a very very important path for the Buddhists, because if there is such a person with that kind of attitude or motivation, then he or she is certainly a Buddha to be in not far future. So therefore, in the Buddhist world, you can say a bodhisattva is regarded as a future Buddha, or somebody who is really trying to, work with compassion in the heart. So the most important practice.
So you're saying really that, let me see if I understand you right, you're saying anyone from any tradition, or indeed no tradition, if they have this motivation, then they are walking the bodhisattva path.
That's right. Because like, for instance, Mother Teresa, I think there is no Buddhist who would not consider her as a bodhisattva. And then many people like that, if they are in that kind of, way, or then whether they are belonging to a particular spiritual or tradition or religious group or not, they are a bodhisattva.
And you are what is known as somebody who is a proponent of the Rinme movement. And here in Totnes we have many different Buddhist groups, as well as Hindu groups and Christian groups. Could you say a little bit about Rinme and what that might mean for the people in Totnes?
Rinme is a Tibetan word which actually means no boundaries. And so it's you can call it economical, and but it is not a school, or it's not a school or a religion or things like that. It's an approach.
Mm-hmm.
The approach is that, like, from within the Buddhists, the Rinme philosophy is that the Buddha said that he taught many different methods for different people, because different people need different remedies or different methods to work on. So therefore, it's not that you can say one is only right and other is wrong, or that one is much higher than the other is low. It's not like that. All different messages, or all different paths or methods are to suit that person. So if that kind of method is useful for one person, then that's the best for that person. So that's why, from the Buddhist point of view, it's not possible to say that this is the only right way and the rest is wrong. So therefore, there are many different traditions, there are many different yanas, there are many different schools in Buddhism, but it could all of them could be, regarded as the teachings of the Buddha, and therefore, very useful and important. Now that way of approach, I think it's very easy to be brought to the whole world. There are many different spiritual paths, there are many different prophets and teachings, and religious, non-religious, all different kind of things, which is useful and good for the people, and some people at least, and they benefit from that practice and that training. So if that is the case, then there's nothing wrong with them. So we need to respect them. So the whole idea is that the approach of this kind of interreligious, intercultural kind of dialogue or way of seeing, where not only the similarities is not necessarily to be emphasized, but differences are something good. Generally, when we have like interreligious dialogues and things like that, people usually concentrate on the similarities, and then, oh, we are similar, so therefore it's very good, it's tempting. But the Rime approach is not like that. That there are differences, but the differences are very good, because different people need different things. So therefore, these differences has to be preserved. Differences are needs to be appreciated, and that kind of special thing in that particular tradition, or is something we need to highlight and say this is the difference, and that's very good. We must preserve it. It doesn't need to be, kind of influenced or changed or diluted, because that's good for some people. So that way, then we have a really genuine respect for each other.
Right.
So that's the understanding of Rime.
Thank you. Yeah. And you were recently in Manchester with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he was talking to young people there, and some of our listeners may be young people themselves. And here in Totnes there are many young people, some of whom you've met today, who are aware and want to bring change to the world. At the same time, there are some people who feel that spirituality is irrelevant. So, maybe they just want to, drop out and or protest, or just have as much fun as possible with a hedonistic lifestyle. What would you say to these young people?
His Holiness Dalai Lama, in that meeting with the young people, at the end he said 3 words. He said, you try to be optimistic, determined, or determination, have determination, and patience. So I think that was very, very important, because we need to be optimistic. And I think optimism is not necessarily always saying that everything will go well, everything is going to be okay, and things like that. That's kind of a good wish. Optimism is, I understand, as accepting the reality, trying to see things as clearly as possible and accept the reality. And then when you accept the reality, then see what can you do to improve on that. So once you see something that you can improve on, then concentrate on that, act on that, and then there is optimism, because if there is something to improve and you can improve and you are going to improve on it, then you have to be, you necessarily have to feel optimistic. So I think that is the important thing. Sometimes people kind of look at things with an expectation. It should all be like this, all nice and wonderful and things like that. And then if that's not, then they get totally disappointed. And then, but it's not like that. There are lots of problems. There has always been problems. There are lots of negative things, and there has always been there in one way or another. But that's that's there, that you have to accept. And then now in that situation, what can I do? What can be done to a little bit improve on this situation? So, but that, the improvement doesn't come necessarily just like this. We have to work with determination and, with some kind of long-term and, little bit perseverance. Perseverance. Otherwise, this nothing happens. It's just like that. And for that, you need some patience, because nothing changes overnight. Things like that. So therefore, I think the young people, especially, has